The status of an EU candidate is a political signal for Russia that Ukraine is not going to give up. However, for the actual entry into the European Union, Kyiv must finally fulfill all the conditions to introduce the necessary reforms. In particular, to reform the constitutional court, strengthen the fight against corruption, introduce an anti-oligarchic law, and bring media legislation in line with European ones.
We all know that Ukrainians are ready to die for the European perspective. We want them to live with us for the European dream. The stability of Ukrainian institutions has been fully demonstrated since the beginning of the Russian invasion, because the authorities continue to work at all levels. In general, by political criteria, Ukraine has made good progress in achieving the stability of institutions that guarantee democracy, the rule of law, human rights, and the respect and protection of minorities. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, during a meeting with the President of Ukraine.
Russia's aggressive war against Ukraine has been a catalyst for change, analysts say. Despite the difficult situation in the country, the pace of reforms was more intense last year in relation to 2021. Since February 23, 2022, almost 2,500 regulations have been implemented, the experts of the Vox Ukraine Reform Index project say. Most of all, such areas as business regulation, healthcare and social policy have undergone changes.
Reforms can and should be implemented during the war, but if we are talking about public finances, then we understand that a significant part of the state's financial resources, directly or indirectly, goes to the cost caused by the aggression of the neighboring state. State budget spending is mainly focused on defense security because this is the most important need.
The reform of the labor market, the solution of the problem of statistical data are no less important in wartime conditions, experts are sure. At the same time, according to the Vox Ukraine survey, among the priority changes are the army reform, digitalization, reform of anti-corruption bodies, and also medical reform for today.
Strengthening the capabilities of our border checkpoints, is the common goal of Ukrainian and Polish customs offices. This will allow us to increase international trade. This will attract additional money to the budget and allow us to work more transparently at customs.
Tax reform is another important condition for maintaining stability in Ukraine. After all, it will be extremely difficult to cover the budget deficit without financial support from partners, including the IMF.
But for this, Ukraine must fulfill a number of conditions, and in particular in the tax sphere. Ukraine can restore the pre-war tax system and tax administration, in particular cancel the moratorium on tax audits, a preferential 2% tax for businesses, and ensure the effective and full usage of the registrar of settlement transactions and other requirements.
The process of introducing reforms will not stop even after the end of the war. The next stage after the victory over the Russian aggressor is restoration. Reforms play a key role here too. The period immediately following the war is usually a critical moment for a country's long-term future. Ukraine should strive to become a full-fledged liberal democracy with all institutional safeguards once the Russian invaders have been defeated. Judicial reform must be an absolute priority. Ukraine cannot become a full-fledged democracy without the rule of law and a well-functioning judiciary. Timofey Milofanov, president of the Kyiv School of Economics, for publication Economic Truth. According to the president of the Kyiv School of Economics, Timofey Milovanov, preventing the influence of oligarchs, reforming the media, reforming the civil service, and other institutional reforms should also be key changes. Reported by Paweł Stelmach, Julia Granovska, UATV News.